bunch of functionality that I can look at here. So let's take a look at the first piece of functionality, which is, I'm going to project it a little bit. All right. So every call that I make in and out of the phone system is in my call history. I think everyone that has a cell phone has seen the call history before. Nothing really spectacular about this, but if I am making a lot of phone calls or I'm trying to get in touch with people, I know for myself, I start working on one thing, I make a phone call, work on something else, and I'm like, well, did I call that person back? No. Well, I can go into my call history and see, or did they call me back, right? Or I think the most popular one that I always love is someone leaves you a voicemail message, and it's a very calm, they're talking very slowly. But then they get to that phone number, and they rattle off that phone number as quick as possible, and you're like, what? What was that number? So you go back to your call history, you can see the call history to be able to see what's going on. So those are very basic things. But if you think about how many times a day you call somebody back, listen to a voicemail message, or write a phone number down, or miswrite down that phone number, down a phone number, to be able just to click and dial. So what do I mean? I can come in here and let's see, I call myself a lot, doing a bunch of demos here. I can right click on the particular number and I can call them back. So in this case, this is an internal call. I can call Bob back. I could call anybody that's here on my system and call back. Okay, I'll make it stop flashing like that. And you can see my call history. Here's all the calls I've made. And I actually have 1,700 calls in here. Right? So I have a lot of calls. It keeps the history for about a year, maybe a year and a half, depending on how many calls you have. So I can kind of go back and look. I also have the ability to filter this. So I can look for certain call types, so phone numbers, certain calls that start with a certain name. I can look for certain calls from a certain date. So I can really kind of get a history of what's going on. Or I can even take this history, and once I find out the specifics, I can export it. So maybe I need to give a report to my manager. Here's all the calls I made, or this is all what I'm working on. So that can be done. So again, this is all wrapped around call history. Now, the phone itself does have a call history, but that's limited to a certain number of calls, just like you might see on your home phone. There's only a certain amount of memory in the phone. This is we're using our computer, so we're allowed to have a lot more room to be able to store that information. Okay, so call history. I also have buttons. Lots of buttons. Let's see here. All right, I'm gonna have to just move this around.